Hello, guys. Welcome to another episode of the Spotlight with Beki Darlin, which I actually met through LinkedIn probably like a year ago. And we have stayed connected, super powerful and smart women. Say hi, Becky.
Hi.
Really happy to have you here. Becky is actually the CEO of SMB Simplified, which she actually is an executive consultant for business transitioning. Why don't you tell us a little bit about you and your background so our audience gets to know you?
Yeah, so I have a little over 15 years experiencing in all sorts of marketing and sales position. And I originally got interested in copywriting, worked my way up through having my own agency, and then worked as a fractional chief marketing officer for a while before getting into what I'm in now, which is I work with businesses that are going through transition points, whether it's going from one stage of business growth into the next, or whether it's you just bought the business and now you're transitioning into, okay, now I have to grow this, or you're looking at, I want to get out of my business. How do I prep it to be able to sell it and make sure that I get what I deserve for what I've built? Because a lot of hard work goes into building businesses. So I kind of help at any of those sticking points when you're transitioning from one phase of business into the next. It makes me really, really happy to see businesses grow and thrive. And so that's one area that I love being in.
That's pretty exciting. I'm happy to see what is going to be your point of view. Because definitely putting a business in a position of selling and maybe like you have to do it on a fast pace is normally just like marketing with asteroids probably because you have to do everything really good and fast. So let's dive in a little bit. Let me try to show my screen.
Yeah, it's an interesting combination because you want to position the company really well to get out of it, but you also want to leave a little of what's called meat on the bones for the next person to be able to come in and add some value through marketing. So you actually don't want to do everything, but it is
Absolutely.
good to go through and make sure that you've optimized.
Absolutely. Well, just to give a little bit of context for whoever's watching this first, the goal of this video series is to educate our viewers on how important it is to have a strategic value journey in place for any company to actually take users from the awareness stage to the conversions. Betty and I were actually talking that a lot of CEOs or a lot of businesses think that it's just putting an ad out there, when in reality there's a lot of stages involved that need to be connected to the marketing strategy, but also to sales. So something I always like to do is to turn it into analogy. It's like dating. You don't propose on the first date. You need to actually meet the person, go on dates, and once that interest is generated, then you know what next steps are going to be probably. And the end goal is proposing and marriage, and that's basically marketing. You really need to show people who you are, what are your benefits, and always stay on their top of mind. So these are some of the steps that we have put together. The company that we will be seeing today is actually a real company. It's called Very Good Roofing. So Becky, if you want to tell us a little bit about what would be your approach starting a value journey for these guys.
Yeah. So this is an excellent company. I've actually had the pleasure of meeting with the owner and some of the employees, and they are just an incredible company that have a really good heart. And that's something that is hard to find in roofing companies. And so that's why I wanted to pick them, is because I like them so much, and I want to make sure that they're able to speak to the people that they need to speak to. So they've got two basic main target ICPs, right? They've got people who have had an incident where they currently have an issue with their roof and they need a fix right now. And then they've got those who are looking in the future. They want to make sure that they're taking care of their investment and they know that a roof will need to be replaced at some point in the future, but they maybe don't know when or exactly what would trigger that or what their options are. So they've kind of got two different ones, and I want to address both of those as we go through the process. Because it can be hard for companies. One of the things that I get a lot, one of the questions is, well, how do we successfully target more than one? We can't just do a whole content plan for all 17 different ICPs. I'm like,
Yeah,
we'll talk about that.
absolutely. And I feel like these type of companies relied a lot on word to mouth. Like there's not a
Mm-hmm.
lot of them who actually have a proper strategy in place, and probably most of them don't really have a marketing team. So it's probably the owner's daughter or some
Mm-hmm.
sisters like who take over this. So I'm super interesting how you plan to approach this. So really quickly, Buyer Journey has different steps that we have
Mm-hmm.
displayed here. So I just want to know, if you had no data, you would start from scratch and you were presented this plan, how would you start? How would you approach it?
Yeah, absolutely. So if we're looking at this, we have to say, okay, well, where are our ideal clients when they need to find us? And then what would they do to try to find us? If they're in a place where we just recently had a hurricane come through my area, those people kind of need somebody right now. So what are they searching for? They're searching for someone who's available right now. They're probably going to be looking at local results because they need somebody who can come in person. But they also realize that after a storm, when you're in this kind of a desperate need to find somebody, there is a lot of potential to be taken advantage of. So they're also looking for a company that feels trustworthy to them, that feels like they're not taking advantage of them. So one of the things that I wanted to address in the way that the one that is the steps that are here up on the screen is in the free downloadable ebook in step 1. I think that is a good kind of start, but I would actually break down the questions into myths and conceptions, or what are they currently being told that isn't correct. And
Yeah.
I would make that into, you may have heard that you need to replace your entire roof after a storm like this. Let me tell you why that may or may not true. Here's how you can tell whether that is or is not true. Turn that into a video short that has the question as the title, and start putting that on YouTube Shorts. You can put it on Reels, you can put it on Facebook, you can put it on TikTok, but YouTube operates as a search engine. So
Yeah.
if they're wanting to get a question answered, they're most likely going to go to YouTube, or they're most likely going to search in Google search, and YouTube results come up in Google search. So you can get some free placement there. So I would answer each one of those 10 questions that you would put in the ebook anyway, and then have a link in the video description to the ebook with the other questions, or to a playlist that has the other questions, so that they can get those answered really quickly. I'd also have a link to them being able to, because this is an emergency, them being able to get priority scheduling for urgent repairs. Have a number that goes to a live person 24/7, 365. It could be a call service. That's fine. A lot of the business that's lost for these type of companies is simply because they're so overwhelmed that nobody picks up the phone.
Yes, absolutely.
And so if they can have somebody, so it's under number 6, the priority scheduling for urgent repairs, I would have that as a separate button, or a part of the side panel on their homepage, where somebody can go, okay, I watched this video, I'm going to go here. This is where I absolutely need to go to talk to somebody live right now and figure out what I need to do.
I really like this connection, because indeed, all of these
Mm-hmm.
steps have to be connected between each other for it to make sense and for you to stay in communication with your user. And I think in a market like this, you really need to be competitive and
Mm-hmm.
position yourself as an authority. So I like the way that both are connected, and how are you including several steps, even in the early stage of awareness?
Yeah, because, well, for people that, if your roof is leaking, you need it needs to be a condensed funnel. right? You need to get to the solution as fast as possible. Now, if it's not an urgent thing for them, then just answering the questions and kind of tying them together reduces the amount of work that you have to do. Because I know that these companies are going out, they're doing in-home inspections, and they're getting asked questions. If the minute that inspection is done, they go out to their truck, record a quick video that literally just restates the question they were asked in the customer's language, that's important. Use the language that the customer uses, and then answer it, and then post it, then they're starting to create this evergreen like library of content that is really easy to produce. It doesn't, like, we're talking 30 to 60 seconds to put the video together and get it uploaded. So it's a very like low effort way for them to do that, but it also establishes them as the authority, because our tendency as service providers is to put our expertise out there in the open, so people, oh, you're very smart, you know all the things.
Yeah.
But the people that you're trying to appeal to don't ask the question using the jargon that you use, because they don't know much about the topic as you do. So It's really important to use the customer's language, because that's what they're actually going to be searching for.
Yeah, and you're producing content of quality. You're really connecting with your audience, and I love the way that you put it, because you're basically, I feel like this type of companies have two sales cycles. One that is short term with people who actually need it at the moment, but you also want to be in the top of mind of the users for when they have an emergency, because we know it's not hurricane season all year, but as soon as you have an issue, you want to be in the top of mind of the consumer. So I think that's super valuable.
But yeah, so you're right that there's two different sales cycles. There's a very short one and a longer one. And so if we make the downloadable ebook something that is avoiding pain rather than something that is a vitamin, so avoid getting scammed by knowing the answers to these top 10 roofing questions, or avoid the 10 most common roofing company scams or things like that. You're equipping the customer to feel like they're the hero in the journey, which is really, really important. They feel like they're in control. The interactive roofing cost calculator, I would include as part of a quiz of, do I need a repair right now? How urgent is this? Because if it's a longer term, they may know that their roof needs to get repaired at some point, but they're not sure when it needs to get repaired. So helping them diagnose that problem, and even having an option where they can take pictures and send in the pictures of their roof rather than getting a full in-home consult, will help them know whether it's important to get an in-home consult. Because in-home consult, if they have kids or pets in the house, like somebody coming to my home is a big disruption, and I don't want that unless I definitely need the repair. So if you offer it, hey, email in your pictures, we'll have somebody get back to you and give you whether this merits an in-home consultation, could actually help them get a lot more people working on it. And that feeds into the multi-service packages as well, as, hey, while I'm here for an in-home consult, let me go ahead and do a complimentary check on these other areas, on your fencing, on your whatever other things that they offer, and just say, hey, you don't need this now. So they're going to get trust and rapport from saying, you don't need this fixed, but in about 10 months, in about 2 years, you're going to want to do this. Or we can push that out by putting you on a maintenance package and kind of extending the life through regular routine care. I think that that's kind of the best way. I honestly don't think that people are going to go to a webinar for this kind of thing. But if you have a series on like the do-it-yourself steps that you can do to prepare your roof for a storm, and then have that connected to, or we can come out and help you do that, because you're going to have people that can't do it themselves. I think that a lot of this can just be video content that links back to whatever specific resource they need.
That is absolutely amazing, and it really gives also like power to the users, that they don't necessarily need it They could do it themselves, but they can understand how much of an effort it is,
Mm-hmm.
and it will actually give leverage to the company because they will understand why it is so expensive. Because normally it's actually pretty expensive, and people complain about it. But if you know what it actually takes, it will make you feel empathy with the company, and maybe like you realize I don't really want to go through this. Let's pay for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Because the more you can empower the consumer, you're actually building that trust. And especially with this type of company who has roofing companies in general have a reputation for being kind of unsavory or being kind of shady. And I know that this particular company owner prides himself on his integrity. He prides himself of being of value to his customers. So this is a really easy way
Yeah,
to walk the walk and show through your actions that you really do care about your customers on a larger scale, which, when people are looking for people to recommend, they're going to be like, oh, I trust this guy. You really need to have him come because he's not going to take advantage of you, even if given
absolutely.
the opportunity, which
Thank
is
you so
important.
much. Do you have any major takeaways that you want to make any notes, or we consider this a good plan for launching?
Yeah, I think one of the things that, just as a general observation of marketing, I think people think that it needs to be this some huge complicated big push that we're prepping for months kind of before we do anything. And I think that there are ways that you can do simple little steps that over time, as you get them, like for example, getting all these like mini questions answered in the heat of the moment, you can go back, put those all together and make those into a product that you already know is going to speak to your ideal customer because it's based on data that you're getting live. So I think some people undervalue the process of just putting out a little piece, like bite-sized content here and there, to be able to know that when you're putting something bigger together, if you're putting a webinar, if you're putting some kind of series together, it's actually going to hit the target rather than you doing all of that work and realizing, oh no, this isn't actually attracting the people that I want or need to be attracted to my service.
Absolutely. I love the way you prioritize it. So it's better to have something than
Yeah.
absolutely nothing in place, because at least someone's gonna see it, and someone's gonna get to you.
Yeah, at least you're going to get some kind of data back. You're going to get some kind of feedback, which will help you direct the marketing strategy from there.
Absolutely. And before we wrap up, where can people find out more about your work and more about you? Is it LinkedIn?
Yeah, they can find me at smbsimplified.com or find me on LinkedIn as Beki Darlin is probably the best way.
Oh, thank you so much, Becky. It's been really wonderful to have you here. You're super smart.
Absolutely.
I really appreciate it. And thank you, everyone, for watching. So,
Thank you.